The city of York sits surrounded by the rivers Ouse and Foss. These historic waterways have been used and modified by the city for thousands of years. The location was chosen by the Romans as the rivers provided a natural defense for the fortress, and the rivers were used to transport men and supplies. As the city grew through the centuries, so did the management of the rivers. And although York has a different relationship with the rivers today than in the past, using them more for tourism and recreation than for defense, they're still an important part of the character and history of York. The rivers will continue to play an important role in the future of York. But climate change and upstream land management practices have caused increased flooding in recent years. There is currently a 34% chance of record-breaking rainfall every winter in the UK. Flood levels continue to rise and threaten the city's relationship with the rivers. And York is no stranger to flooding. The rivers Ouse and Foss have been breaking their banks for thousands of years. And the residents of York have found ways to adapt to their unruly neighbor rivers. But more devastating floods are threatening the historic city. This building, the King's Arms, is a 17th century pub that has become famous for frequently being underwater. There have been many attempts to control the flooding by digging channels for the water to flow through, building earthen embankments to contain the water, and building flood walls to protect buildings along the rivers. In the 1980s, the city constructed the River Foss barrier after several years of flash flooding. It was designed as part of a wider scheme, along with weirs, dams, walls, and barriers. When closed, the barrier prevents water from the River Ouse from flowing backward into the River Foss and into the city, while pumps transfer water away from the city and into the Ouse at 30 tons per second. The barrier has helped protect the city through several major flood events, including in 2000, 2007, and 2012. However, in recent years, flooding has become too severe. And in 2015, the barrier failed when water entered the electrical services. In order to prevent flooding of the pump room, the barrier was opened. On Boxing Day 2015, hundreds of homes and businesses flooded, and £1 million was given in aid relief to the residents. It was the worst flooding in a generation. After the Boxing Day floods, the city began to upgrade its flood defenses, including adding more pumps to the Foss barrier. The Yorkshire Flood Resilience Project was launched to help residents protect their properties from flooding. The Environment Agency produced a 5-year plan to reduce flood risks in York, which included mitigation plans such as improving flood embankments and building temporary defenses. But perhaps more importantly, it addresses more long-term and sustainable solutions to offset the events caused by climate change. Solutions like improving upstream land management by letting water spread across the landscape, managing farmland runoff, planting trees to soak up water upstream, and managing fields and drainage to stem the flow of water before it reaches York. Climate projections indicate that there will be a greater frequency of extreme weather events in the coming years. And focusing on changing land use and coming up with natural solutions may be the way forward to sustainably managing York's rivers. We cannot prevent all flooding, but we can mitigate the damage to York through better water management.